MPH Sports Podcast. Talk sport and property with sports people discussing their careers and how property played a part in it.
Christie Murray, welcome to Talk Sport and Property. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Christie, thank you for joining us. So how have you been enjoying the Euros? I can't have you on the pod and not discuss what's been happening. I don't want to talk about Scotland for too long now.
No, it's been brilliant. I think you can just see, obviously, for us Scotland fans, like how big it is to have, obviously, the men's team playing in the Euros this year. And I think it's just it's been great for us to watch them playing at home. And then, obviously, I think playing against England, they did very well. And yeah, it's been great. Like, if you're a football fan like myself, like just to be able to watch all these amazing players and playing against each other, it's great. And I'm looking forward to the last two games. Well, the next two games, tonight and tomorrow.
Where did you watch the Scotland-England game?
Oh, I was in Cornwall. We went on holiday to Cornwall, so it took us like 8 hours, and I knew it was going to be a long journey. So I was like, I want to be there to watch it. This is like one of the biggest games. I need to be there watching it. We got there and all the pubs weren't showing the game. There was one pub showing the game. So to rush back to the like lodge that we hired and then watch it there, that's where we watched it. And we're walking about Newquay with our Scotland tops on. Well, I was wearing my Scotland top, Megan was wearing an England top, which I wasn't too pleased about. But yes, I watched it there.
Well, the Scotland boys did great, didn't they? Yeah,
they did. They did us all proud. I think obviously it's a massive step up playing on a major tournament. So yeah, I think in the last game as well, like they've given everything, and that's all you can ask of your team.
So I need to ask you, as a Scottish international, as a Scotland fan, will you be supporting England tomorrow night?
Are we watching the game? Nah. No, I'll be watching the game. I think obviously the last game I watched the England one as well, and I thought they actually played very well. I think they've obviously got an amazing squad, and the calibre of players that they've got is just really exciting. So I'm looking forward to watching the game. I think they've got a great run. They've had a great run of matches into the semi-final. So I'll definitely be watching it. And
your prediction for tonight's game and tomorrow?
I think I would like to see. I think Italy. I'm a massive fan of both Italy and Spain. So, but I think Italy might just. I like the way they play, and I'm actually really looking forward to the game tonight.
Yeah, no.
What about you?
I called it just after the qualifiers that we would meet Italy in the final.
Mm.
We've had a very fortunate road in. I thought we were superb at the weekend. I think we'll win tomorrow night 2-0. I think Italy will win tonight 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And bring on Sunday.
I thought you were going to say something else. Yeah.
I don't expect to beat Italy, but to experience England in a European Cup final would be incredible. I don't think I ever thought that would happen in my lifetime. So if it happens and we lose, then I think we've still won.
Yeah. Have you managed to go to any of the games?
No, I did look at trying to get some tickets for tomorrow night. Unfortunately, the cheapest ticket I could find was £3,000.
That's ridiculous.
So unless I wanted to experience divorce, it was probably best I suggested watch it at home.
That's it.
And you, were you tempted to go to watch Scotland?
I would love to have went to watch Scotland, but it just kind of didn't really tie in. I'd already made plans, so and like you say, the tickets are so expensive and are like gold dust. So
yeah,
no, maybe another time, I guess.
My brother tried to tempt me to go for this evening's match. He's going. He paid £400 for tonight's game. But again, I'm going to train.
A lot of money.
It is, yeah. I'm going to train the girls, go home, have a cup of tea, and watch the game, and get
sounds like a good night
for tomorrow. Yeah, it's great. Well, look, I know you're a big fan of the pod. Thank you so much for coming on. We had a really successful first series. I want to start by talking about your career. I'm then going to ask you some questions, just a quick fire round, and then we're going to talk about property because I know that's something you're so passionate about too. So let's start with your career. Currently captain at Birmingham City Football Club, over 200 career professional appearances, 63 of those at senior international level for Scotland. Christie, was being a footballer always your dream? And at what age did you start playing?
I think for me, like, football's always been my passion since I was like tiny. Didn't know that I was going to be able to play full-time football and make a career of it. No, I don't really think football was a point when I was growing up. But I think the older I got and starting to get involved with the Scotland national youth kind of setups, I thought, well, maybe there is an opportunity here. So yeah, but I mean, it was always a dream, but whether or not it was possible, it was actually going to be a real option for me. When I was younger, I didn't really know that, but I'm obviously very grateful that I've been able to do that for a number of years now. I started playing football probably when I was about 4. It wasn't actually competitive or anything like that, but my brother's a year younger. So we just kind of always used to play football together, like run to school, play before school, play at breaks, run home at lunchtime, run back so that we had more time to play football. And then it was playing in the parks after. So it was like literally football all the time. So, yeah.
Did you grow up in a football family?
Yeah, like my dad is a massive football fan, and when he was younger he played like junior level and stuff in Scotland, and yeah, my brother was playing football as well. He actually played up to under-19 youth level at Dundee United, so the two that, bless my sister, she wasn't interested in football, but unfortunately she had to put up with us too. So yeah, it was very much a footballing family.
Well, your obsession for the sport allowed you to have an unbelievable experience, because at 16, whilst you were on international duty for the 17s at Scotland, you were scouted by Carson Newman College and decided to move to Jefferson City in Tennessee on a soccer scholarship. Is that kind of opportunity quite common for young, talented teenage women like you?
At that point it was, because there wasn't obviously really a pathway into kind of professional football at that time. So I was kind of the era where like I watched Bend It Like Beckham. I was a massive like football fan, and like that was the dream at that point. It was to go and kind of play in the States where they at that point had a professional league. So it was maybe to go and do a scholarship and then maybe get picked up. Like in my head it was just the opportunity to play football full time. Like that's all I seen, and that was I look back at it now and I'm like that to my mum. How did you let me go to America at 16? Literally just turned 16. I hadn't finished school really. I'd done like 4 years of like high school, so I could have had another 2 left. And I was like, looking back on it now, I'm like, I was so young, but I don't regret it. It was the best thing I've ever done.
Was it?
Like, yeah, just in terms of like personal growth as well as also learning to be an athlete, because in America that's something that they focus highly on, is like athleticism. And for me that was a turning point and probably an eye-opener in terms of like what it took to be a full-time athlete. So I loved it. It was brilliant. It totally made me come out my shell. Like I was very, very quiet when I was younger. I mean, I'm still quite quiet unless I'm comfortable in kind of the group or whatever, but it definitely made me grow and actually come out my shell and start kind of trying to speak to people and be more confident. So it was brilliant.
So what did your week look like? And I'm also interested to know, as a father to a daughter who's obsessed about it as well, how do those opportunities come about? And even when you're scouted by a college like Carson Newman, what do they tell you? So
it kind of came about quite randomly. So we were playing a tournament in Bristol. It was like a 4 nations tournament with Scotland. And my family all travelled down to watch it. And my mum and dad had went into like a cafe before the game. And they bumped into an Irishman, and he just heard the accent and he was like, "What are you doing here?" And they were like, "Oh, we're here to watch your daughter." And he was like, "I'm here to scout." And that kind of, they were just like, "All right, cool." He was like, "What number's your daughter?" And that was it. There wasn't really any kind of, and then after the game he came up and he was like, "I would be really interested in Christie coming out to play for my college team." So he was the actual coach as well. So he was doing the scouting. And so my mum and dad kind of didn't really tell me until I had come back from camp. I don't think they wanted me to be too distracted because I'd have been absolutely buzzing. And then we had a couple of chats with my mum and dad, and then we spoke to Phil, and he was like, "Look, I'm happy for you to come out and have a look around the college and to meet us and to see what we're about, because it's obviously a massive step, and for my mum and dad to allow me to go there, that was the only way that was going to happen." So my dad and I went out to America. We met Phil. We stayed for a week, met some of the players that were currently there. We had a tour around the college and kind of just get a feel for the place. And I just felt like that was an opportunity that I just couldn't really turn down. So yeah, literally a month later, I packed my bags and I was saying bye to my family in the airport, which was quite a daunting point in my life, just getting on the plane and being like, it was, oh my God, I'm on my own here, that's it. But they were brilliant, do you know what I mean? They were like my family abroad. Some of the girls' parents took me under their wing, they invited me for Thanksgiving, like I was staying at their houses, so they really, really were amazing with me actually. Like the girls were like my big sisters, so I was very fortunate.
So do you think that education and that sort of life experience kind of prepared you for the career that you had?
Yeah, I definitely do, because at that point, like I said earlier, there wasn't really any kind of level of professional football. Like Arsenal ladies were probably the team that I idolised growing up, but they were only training twice a week and most of the girls probably had full-time jobs. So it wasn't really something that I could consider or like aspire to do, because it wasn't really a full-time kind of role. Whereas in America, I was getting the opportunity to train every day and to potentially get an education as well, which I think is hugely important, especially in the women's game. So yeah, that's kind of why I kind of chose to go out there as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, you came back and you started your professional career in 2007 with Queen's Park before joining Celtic in the same year. I have to ask, did you grow up as a Celtic fan?
Yes, my whole family are Celtic fans, so I was a season ticket holder for years. Grew up watching the likes of like Henrik Larsson, who was like my hero, like literally my hero growing up, in like Chris Sutton, John Hartson, Stylian Petrov, Paul Lambert. Like there was so many like amazing players, Sean Maloney, like Aidan McGeady, like that. I travelled kind of all over Europe with my dad and my brother watching the games. Like we went to Seville when Celtic were in the Europa Cup final, and I'm a massive Celtic fan. So when Celtic kind of had just started and then they came in and said that they were interested in me joining, there was like no question as to whether or not I was going to go and play for them. It was a definite yes.
And you were there for 4 years?
Yeah, I think about three and a half years, I think it was roughly. But yeah, it was great. Like obviously at that point the game wasn't professional. It's only recently just turned kind of professional, some of the teams, but to play for the team that I've supported was special.
Yeah, I bet. So I read that in May 2010 you scored 2 in the Scottish Women's Premier League final, beating Spartans 4-1. What a day that must have been for you personally, Christie.
Yeah, it was class. I must have only been 20 when that happened, or 19. Yeah, it was amazing. That was the first kind of bit of silverware that Celtic had won, and obviously to play a part in that was amazing. They actually haven't won anything since then. So yeah, it was special. I've still got some of the pictures that I keep, and yeah, my family were there watching and stuff. So it was brilliant.
The following year, and this I really enjoyed reading about, but in the same breath, I couldn't quite believe what I was reading. So on the 23rd of January 2011, you signed for Glasgow City. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's a bit of rivalry there, right?
You've done your research.
So what's going on there? You grew up as a Celtic fan. You spent 4 years there.
Yeah.
And then you go and join Glasgow
City, our biggest rivals, yeah. It was a tough decision for me because like my heart was always at Celtic, but I just felt that in that point in my footballing kind of career, like I wanted to continue to develop, and for me, like Glasgow City and still are like the champions. So for me, like I wanted to be around players that like were winning daily, and but it was a competitive environment. They played in the Champions League, and I just remember speaking to the manager at the time when he was wanting to sign me. He was like, look, when you look back at your career, you want to have like medals and stuff in your hand and be able to like say, like, look, we did this, and we did. Like we won a lot. When I did join, we ended up winning. I think we won the league every year. We won Scottish Cup, the League Cup, and it was an amazing kind of part of my football career that I really look back on really fondly, because I was playing with all my pals. So
well, I guess that if you believe that you are the best, you kind of want to play for the best, and naturally players progress, and if it means joining, your rivals, I suppose that's just a tough decision, but the right decision to make. I mean, as you said, you won the league in 11, 2012, 2013, the Scottish Cup also in 3 the same years. I mean, you can't look back and regret that decision that you made, because it then allowed you to also progress into the last 16 of the Champions League. Although you lost to Arsenal, the coach was so impressed with you. I mean, she's also rushed to sign you up.
That was a bit mad. I think, obviously it gave me the opportunity to play in the Champions League. And we were all, there was a number of us all living at the academy. So, we were doing football full time and doing an education. I'm sure Lisa's probably told you about that as well. But, it was just an amazing, journey, to be part of, to play in the Champions League, to get through to the last 32, which was the first time a Scottish team had done that. Come home and have a full packed out the stadium, it was brilliant. So yeah, to play against obviously Arsenal in the Champions League as well was brilliant. That's the kind of platform and what it allows you to do when you play at that level. So yeah, and then obviously to get the opportunity to go down and play for Arsenal was literally one of my dreams. So it was brilliant.
If Arsenal was the pinnacle of where to get to, and then suddenly only a couple of years later they're chasing your signature. I mean, how did that come about? Because if you're at Glasgow and you're winning trophies, you're in the Champions League, you're also in Scotland, at home, around your parents. Was it I know you've already experienced the American move, but how did you feel about coming to St Albans and training in London?
I was honestly ecstatic. The thought I'd been able to play for Arsenal was I was just buzzing. And then again, it was the opportunity to be a full-time athlete, and that's what I always wanted to do. So yeah, as soon as Shelley kind of got in touch with me, Scottish League was, I think we were still summer league at that point maybe. So the season was done, and she kind of phoned. It was just after Christmas. It was Boxing Day, I think, or something. And she was just we'd be interested in having you down to train, and see if it's kind of something. I was like, yes, I'll come. Wait, just tell me what flight I need to go on and I'll be there. So yeah, it was a pretty amazing experience for me, and obviously just to go and down and play for the team that you support. I supported them as a female team when I was younger, so watched all the FA Cup finals and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Cool. I couldn't help but notice you did only stay the one season at Arsenal. I know you also had you experienced some moves at different clubs, such as Bristol. You went back to Celtic, Doncaster, and returned to Glasgow as well, all in 4 years. Is that quite common in women's football? Because 4 clubs in 4 seasons, there's a lot of moving around and a lot of stress.
A lot of stress.
Yeah, I can imagine it was. What was going on?
I think at that point, I had only signed the year at Arsenal. I wasn't playing regularly, and I just wanted to be playing regularly. I'd come off the back of a year injury before I'd signed for Arsenal. I'd just been back a few months when we played against them in the Champions League, and I just wanted to play regularly. So when I went to Bristol, that was only a 1-year contract, and that year we got relegated. So they were kind of not really at a point where they wanted to offer me a contract full time at that point. And I think myself, I would have preferred to have played in the WSL. So, and then I've joined Celtic again. I started doing personal training and playing for them again. It just seemed like the right kind of move at the time. And then when Doncaster was interested, it was an opportunity to sign a wee bit of a longer contract. So that was a year and a half. I joined them halfway through their WSL season. They were kind of in a relegation battle, so I kind of knew that if they did get relegated, I still had a full-time contract and the opportunity to just personally play every week and get better. So, and that was actually a really good season for me when we played in the WSL. But the way it worked out is we were already going to win the WSL to come up, and my contract finished, and they just had no money. They were just literally, they ended up folding at the end of the season and getting put down about 4 weeks. So it was, just the way it worked out. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time at all the clubs, just playing regularly and enjoying my football.
Yeah. Well, look, it was May 2018 you signed for Liverpool.
Yeah.
As their number 10 on a 2-year deal where you've played 36 times over those 2 seasons. What was it like to join another massive club like Liverpool? Because your CV now looks very impressive. Arsenal, Liverpool, Glasgow, Celtic. Did you play at Anfield? What was the setup at Liverpool?
Yeah, it was. I was delighted. The manager that signed me was Neil Redfern. He was. I'd worked with him briefly at Doncaster, and we had a brilliant relationship. He obviously had a lot of experience in football, playing himself at a higher level, and just a good way working. So, for me, that was also really attractive about why I chose to go to Liverpool. So, and then obviously Liverpool's one of the biggest clubs in the world. So that was something that I was obviously looking forward to a lot. We played Everton at Anfield, which was an amazing experience. I think to have 20,000 maybe at the game, maybe a little bit more. That's so cool. I went to give blood a couple of weeks ago, and the nurse who was testing my blood and whatever, she was chatting, and I ended up not being able to give blood because I had the game the day before or whatever. And she said, "Oh, you play football?" She was like, "I was at the Anfield game, Everton v Liverpool." And I was like, "No way." She went, "Yep, it was my wee boy's first ever, my grandson's first ever game of football." And I was like, "That's amazing." The first game was a women's game, and they were just like, "Wow."
It's funny, isn't it? Because I would imagine if big clubs like, your Arsenals and your Liverpools, if they were to host those sort of games more often, I think it would draw in more crowds, in particular families, because it's so hard to get tickets of the big clubs unless you are paying your season ticket premiums.
Yeah.
Where else do you get to walk into the stadium of the local team that you support and guarantee almost a good ticket and watch your team play?
Yeah, and also just inspire them. Maybe just be like, they walk in and they go, I want to play football. And that is a moment that as a young kid you'll never forget. So to get that opportunity, like you say, obviously it's kind of like gold dust trying to get tickets for a men's game. So to come in and get the full experience with your whole family, that's pretty special. So I think it would be brilliant if more women's teams actually played on the big stadiums and kind of drew in the crowds. And I think obviously with fans hopefully being allowed to come back in now, I think there'll be more people wanting to come and watch live sporting events. So that can obviously only help kind of grow the women's game too.
Lisa and Viv invited me and Chloe to go and watch them play Tottenham at Tottenham's new stadium.
Oh, amazing.
We couldn't go because Jamie had a game and I had to take him because it was quite far away. But I'll always be grateful for the opportunity that they said, well, look, we'll get you tickets if you like. But I could imagine they must have had tens of thousands there because obviously Tottenham supporters to go into that stadium.
Yeah.
And probably it's probably not a bad seat in the stadium, to be fair. But if there was an opportunity of getting a better seat at a relatively low cost amount, what an afternoon out that would have been for local people to watch a London derby. Arsenal won and Lisa scored as well, actually. So they were absolutely buzzing. But I want to talk about the infrastructure between women's football and the setup and the training facilities compared to the men's. I know at Arsenal, they train at the same training ground and almost on the next pitch to the men's setup. What was it like at Liverpool, Christie?
Well, at the point when I was there, and I think it's still the same, we didn't train at the men's training ground. We trained at Tranmere Rovers training ground.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like, they had their two pitches and then we had their own kind of like pitch that we trained on, and we shared their kind of like big gym. We had our own changing rooms and all our staff had their own like kind of offices and stuff. But in terms of like being at the men's training ground, we were very rarely there. It was only really if there was really bad weather and we needed to go onto like the 3G or the 4G pitch, which was at the training ground. So I don't know if there's plans to change that, but I know that the girls are still at Tranmere.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is women's football definitely in sort of transition for improvement? Year on year we're seeing, obviously we were talking before the pod earlier, the massive, commercial deal with Sky next season, Is it every game or is it just certain games that are going to be televised with the WSL?
think it'll be certain games. I don't know how many.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tell you how many, but I think there'll be quite a few on it, which is brilliant.
So I think there's going to be more interest and more money, more revenue invested into women's football. And I think that will encourage more young girls and more opportunities to come through. I mean, I've got an under-11s girls team, as you know, and I've just lost one girl to Chelsea. So I've got her for another 4 weeks. I mean, she is a incredibly super talented young girl. I've personally never seen another girl like her. And bearing in mind, she's probably one of the youngest in the group. So she's just been signed by Chelsea. But it'll be interesting to see where women's football is in another 10 years' time, and if they're being given the similar facilities as the men do, and big clubs such as Liverpool investing in that infrastructure because you see what Chelsea are doing, and as you said with Arsenal, the setup's incredible. It was always your goal to play for Arsenal, even though you're a Celtic fan.
Yeah,
you play for Arsenal because that was the pinnacle of your journey. And I just think that I'm looking at what Manchester City are doing. I've got a few friends in Manchester United women's team, and I've seen their progression this season. I think it's been incredible.
Yeah.
So it'd just be interesting to see. I think a lot of the big clubs are investing more money at it, more opportunities, more facilities to better their team. And look, you know, after your 2 years at Liverpool, you went to join Birmingham City in a move that gave you the captain's armband too. I mean, was this something that you personally wanted in part of your move, or was that just something that the club identified in you as a bit of a leader, I guess?
It's definitely not something I had wanted. I think joining Birmingham, obviously, it was just an opportunity for me to go in again and to get some playing time. And coming in, they actually quite a young team, and they just felt like I had a little bit more experience that I could obviously help with the group. And when Carla kind of asked me, it was a bit surprising because it's never really a role that I see myself doing. But I was obviously very grateful and honoured that she'd asked me. And to be fair, it's helped me grow a lot, kind of off the pitch as well. So it's one that I just obviously kind of adapted and grown myself, and it's been nice. It's just obviously trying to help everybody as much as possible and continue to be the best that I can be too.
And how was last season for you, Christie?
It was a challenge. It was great actually. I really enjoyed it. Back to the Wolves most of the season, but we had a brilliant group of people, and I know for a fact that's obviously one of the reasons that we managed to stay up. We had low numbers and different other kind of things going on, but actually it was so much fun. It was so much fun, and I enjoyed playing my football. So yeah. And
I read that your home games are going to be played at St Andrews next season. I mean, that must be so exciting.
Yeah, it's brilliant news. We'd obviously a lot of games cancelled last season because obviously the pitch and the weather at Solihull. So to be obviously playing all our games this season on St Andrews is brilliant. It's a beautiful pitch, and obviously it's great for our fans to come and watch the games as well there. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So how many fans would you like, or would you expect or like to see? I suppose that's two different questions, but what would you expect to see on a home game?
Honestly, I don't actually know, because obviously the first full season that I played at Blues, there was no fans allowed in. So it's kind of going to be exciting to actually play with all the fans that have been sending us messages of support all season and keeping us going. So it'll be nice. And I don't really know how many, to be honest, but I'm hoping that obviously when it comes Derby Day and things like that we can get a great atmosphere. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people wanting to come and watch football after not being able to watch it for a long time. So as many as possible.
Well, I've got 14 girls that will definitely be screaming.
I'll get them tickets. I'll sort it.
Come on.
Yes, definitely.
Look, I want to talk about, before we go on to the midsection of the pod, I want to talk about the opportunities that you got as a child. We mentioned earlier, you obviously got a brother that was your balling partner in the garden.
Yeah.
But we also spoke before the pod about you having to grow up playing in a boys' team. Your training was in a park with parents putting their lights on just for girls to have a kick about. I mean, I look at how far it's grown in the setup that I'm blessed to have with my girls team at the moment. Watching them just they're so competitive and they sacrifice so many other little things that they could do for football.
Yeah.
What opportunities did you get? And I'm talking similar sort of age groups now to what I coach.
Well, if I was talking under 12, say, for example, similar to obviously your daughters, we literally trained twice a week at a local park. So it was just some balls, some cones, and that was it. Like, we didn't actually even have goals. So we would do like the training just on the grass. And sometimes it was parents that took the teams too. And like one of the parents, they would come and pick me up because my mum would be taking my brother to football. And they would come and pick me up nights for training, and then we'd just get there, and it would just be, obviously when the winter came in, it got quite tricky because obviously the sun would go away quite early, so sometimes the parents would have to stick their lights on their car so that they could finish the training session. Like, I think now looking at obviously the opportunities young girls get, it's brilliant to see. I coached at Liverpool 16s and 14s for a year. And the kind of resources and stuff that they get is just amazing. Like, I'm just like you, we're so lucky. Lovely pitches, all the kit. They would get psychologists, they would get nutrition information, they would get an S&C coach twice a week, they would get so much, and you're like, that is a young girl's dream if they want to play football. So it's nice to see such a change, obviously, for the young girls now.
And I mean, obviously your stats are so impressive to have gone from where you were with the lack of opportunities that you had growing up, and then to take yourself to America, come back, start all over again. It's very applaudable, Christie. You've done so well. What goals have you now got for the rest of your career?
Well, definitely with the national team, our goal is to obviously qualify for the World Cup now. We didn't obviously qualify for the Euros, but for us now it's just a new mindset, and obviously wanting to qualify for another major tournament. I think personally, obviously, I would love to be involved with that. So again, it just depends on playing for my club. Just I need to play well for my club so that I'm available to be selected. So yeah, I think that's obviously the big one for the next couple of years. And then just see what happens, I guess. Like, it's obviously just making sure that I'm performing every week for Blues. So it'll be another tough season. Like, there's more and more really good, talented players coming in. So it's making sure that we can obviously compete and stay up this year again.
Yeah. Well, from all of us at MPH Sports, I wish Birmingham City every success next season. We will be watching with interest, and I will be coming to St Andrews with my team of girls.
Yes, definitely. We need to speak and sort this.
I know, we will. I would love that, genuinely.
Yeah,
I would absolutely love that, and so would they. Right, coming in, we're going to move on to the midsection of the pod. Are you ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead.
The favourite club you have played for?
I liked them all for different reasons.
Stop being sad.
Obviously, it's hard. It's hard because Celtic was my dream club in terms of growing up and supporting them. Arsenal was a club that I always wanted to support. And then when I played for Glasgow City, like, we won everything. So I love them all for different reasons. Do you know what I mean? And every club that I've been to, I've got obviously special memories. So I think that's quite hard. It's probably they're probably up there.
Okay, I'm not going to get an answer, am I?
Nah, you're not for that one. That's quite a hard one.
Okay, the best ground you have played at?
Been fortunate enough to play in a couple of amazing stadiums. Celtic Park, because I'm a Celtic fan.
Of course, I expected that one. The proudest career moment for you?
Playing at the World Cup, without a doubt. That was playing in the first game against England. It was amazing, literally a dream come true.
Amazing. Where was that?
That was at Nice, Stade de Nice.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, that was another amazing stadium.
The best player you have played with or against?
Played against Jennifer Marijan that plays with Germany. Unbelievable.
Right.
Like, couldn't get near her. So when I was playing with Bristol, we played them in the quarterfinals of the Champions League when she played for Frankfurt. And wow, there were some amazing players in that team, but she just absolutely ran the show.
Another level, huh?
Yeah.
Your favourite goal? And I know you've probably scored a lot, but what was the favourite one?
I scored my first goal for Scotland. Yeah, it was a winner against Republic of Ireland, so it was class.
Amazing. The best player, in your opinion,
currently in the WSL?
Oh, there's a few. I've always been a massive fan of G at Chelsea, but I think obviously like this year, I think Frank Kirby's been amazing. Like they've had in obviously a strike partner up front, Sam Kerr. Yeah. They've been on fire this year, so probably say Frank Kirby.
Okay. What game are you most looking forward to next season? When the fixture comes out, which one are you looking for?
Don't know, all of them. I just can't wait to get back playing football. Honestly, like it'll be just great. I think the opening game, just because it'll be our first time playing it, just our opening game at home, because that's obviously when we start our new kind of chapter at St Andrews. So it's one I'm really looking forward to.
The fixture list not out yet?
I don't know, actually. I don't think it is. I'm a nightmare. I've totally switched off this break. I'm not going to lie. It's just been nice to switch off for a bit.
I went on Birmingham City's website. I don't think it is.
No, it's not. I think I would have known if it was. I actually felt bad there, Lee. You made me feel bad.
Can you name another sport that you enjoy? You're going to say surfing now, aren't you? Because you've had a little dabble down in, St Ives on your.
Oh, it was amazing. I love that. Do you know what? It's one that I'd love to learn to ski. I can't ski obviously because I play football, but that's one that I would love to do. So whenever I finish playing, that's the first thing I'm going to learn to do.
And if you wasn't a footballer, what would you be doing?
Honestly, I don't know. Probably working in property, or I kind of would always have loved to have been an architect. So maybe something like that.
And I think that is the perfect way to end the first half of the pod.
Talk Sport and Property Podcast, sponsored by MPH Sports Property Academy. Download the app today from the App Store or Google Play by typing in MPH Sports, the trusted go-to app for sports people looking to buy or learn about property.
Christie, welcome back. We're now going to move on to my favourite subject. You and I, we've never actually met, have we?
No.
How did we get in touch with each other? Must have been through Instagram, was it? Or
I think it was through social media. I'd seen that you obviously were doing property and things like that, and that's something that I'm obviously really quite interested in, and don't know a lot about it, but it's something that I obviously love to learn about and just kind of know more information. So that's how I think we spoke in lockdown, was it? I think we had a chat in lockdown, so
it might have been something maybe to do with either Lisa or I think Jane Ross might have put a little testimonial. We helped Jane with a bit of advice once, and she put a post on there for me. And that's what I love about it, is that when you actually give some free advice away and then you make it almost like another friend, it encourages others to, I guess, to have a little bit of confidence to kind of reach out and think, okay, well, if she's speaking to him, maybe I'll just ask him a couple of questions. And we had a really good long conversation, didn't we, in the first lockdown. You mentioned during our first conversation about how passionate you were for properties, and I remember saying to my team, God, if she wasn't a footballer, she would be working here, because clearly you've got this massive desire and football. But when did you first discover this appetite for property and learning about property?
Well, my parents actually have a number of properties that let out, so they started doing it about 15 years ago, 20 years ago maybe, and they just started buying kind of smaller flats and renting them out and stuff like that. So it was kind of from helping my mum clean them after the time, like the tenants would move out, and they kind of do a lot of themselves. They're all local properties back in Scotland. So it was kind of from that, and I was like, I want to do this. Like, I know it's a bit hard work, but it's actually quite a rewarding thing, and obviously it's an opportunity for you to kind of grow your own kind of personal business at the side as well. So I think when I got to about 22, 23, I bought my first kind of like just one bedroom flat. Yeah, and it was just from then on really, and like obviously my family having a number of properties, I just kind of always asking questions and kind of asking them what's happening with them, if they got people in them, there's people moving, and yeah, it just really came from that.
It's funny, isn't it? Because just by them asking you to clean a couple of their investment properties, it's triggered this motivation and almost a keenness to explore, well, what is this? What is this that we're cleaning? And I mean, how many properties have they got? You said like 14, 15. Where did their motivation come from? Where did it all start? Because sometimes you need like a pot of money to start. Is this their full-time job?
Well, my mum it's kind of both of them, but my mum kind of runs a lot of the properties. Yeah, I think they just over the years just kind of had saved some money and started investing it in obviously smaller properties. So it kind of came from that really, and then over time it just kind of grew. They probably had a couple and sold a couple, and then just kind of moved them on that way. So, but yeah, it was obviously really rewarding when you go in and maybe you redecorate or you kind of make them a bit better looking, and you're like, this is actually quite a rewarding kind of process to be part of. So, and they love it too. I think my mum's maybe at the point where she would quite like to sell a few of them now because it's more work and just to keep on top of. But yeah, it's actually brilliant that you can obviously make an income, and it's quite a nice way to do it as well. When you can help people too.
Whereabouts are the properties, Christie?
Kind of in and around Glasgow and Coatbridge area in Scotland.
Okay. And what side is that? The west side or?
East, kind of about 6 miles out of the city centre.
Okay. And what made them target those sort of areas?
That's where we lived. So it was all in the kind of village that we lived.
So it's local knowledge was the main drive for it.
Yeah, so that was kind of how that kind of came about as well.
Well, I've been to that east side of Glasgow a few times. I remember we were trying to buy 2 buildings. It was couldn't have been more than half a mile away from Celtic Stadium because you could literally see the stadium from the block of flats. Mm-hmm. I remember the yield being very strong around there. There was some parts of the area that was nice and other parts of the area that wasn't as nice. Would you agree? It was quite
nice. I think it's obviously an area that obviously needed a bit of redevelopment and just kind of uplifting. I think just obviously with the Commonwealth Games and stuff coming in as well, there was different parts of the East End that was obviously redeveloped, but there is obviously still some areas that are a bit more needing some love.
But the Commonwealth Games really uplifted the prices in that area, didn't it?
Yeah.
So was your parents' portfolio acquired ahead of that, or did they?
Oh no, they had them before that. Yeah. So they had one actually close to where you were, 2 actually where you were close to saying, but they sold one of them. It just wasn't really one that they wanted to keep, to be honest. But they have another smaller one in there as well. So, but they're actually further out from there. It's probably another 15 minutes in the car towards Edinburgh, where they have most of the properties. But like you say, like that coming in obviously really did help redevelop the whole area, and obviously the big arena and everything that's there now is amazing. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant for kind of the side of Glasgow.
And that was the main reason why I flew out there, really, to be honest, because the development itself, we could see was in an area of transition. Clearly money was being invested into the area. We noticed that at the top of the road, there was a Marks and Spencer's and a Next and a Costa that had all been open. We're thinking, well, that wouldn't have been here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were buying them at a really good price. It was just something that was really unfortunate. The trust with the developer completely fell apart. And unfortunately, I had to encourage our investors to withdraw from both buildings. It was a sour day that day, but we learned a lot from it. And it was an area that I would most definitely revisit because I felt that the capital growth was going to increase. The yield balance was fantastic. The rental demand was screaming at the time. I guess that's something that your mum and dad have continued to experience today, have they?
Yeah. All their kind of like properties tend to be like 1 and 2 bedroom flats, and they normally rent out pretty quickly.
Do they?
Yeah, because it's kind of on a commuter route, so it's literally a minute to get onto the motorway, and then there's a train station outside, so it takes you into the city in 15 minutes. So it's actually pretty handy.
It's so important to be near amenities. I think there's a lot of accidental landlords out there that have a property and don't understand why it doesn't rent out or the levels of rent they get. And I think portfolio analysis, if you've got more than one property, like clearly your parents have, it's reminding investors to revisit their portfolio and having some sort of, I guess, template infrastructure where you can reach out and to your local property experts in that area and have them all valued maybe every 2 years and see what sort of equity they can get. Because you mentioned there that Dad wanted to sell one of them, I would rather they encourage to refinance it if they wanted to pull some money out, because debt at the moment is so cheap. And with interest rates really at rock bottom, why wouldn't they look to pull out some equity and therefore look to maybe add more properties to their portfolio? I guess it all comes down to performance. Maybe next time I'm in Scotland, I'll come and see you, Mum and Dad, and we'll talk about it, because I'd love to give them some advice in portfolio analysis, because if they're sitting on a considerable amount of equity, then we might as well try and make it financially perform better for them. Going back to you buying your property, where is yours? Do you have one? Do you have more than one?
I've got two. So I've got two now. One in the same village that I grew up in. We don't live there anymore, but it's like 10 minutes away from where we live. And then I've got another one about 15 minutes away from where I live as well. So
we mentioned earlier, I mean, I helped your teammate Lisa Evans at Arsenal, and
she's a good girl.
She's great, and I've been working for Lisa for a few years actually. We've helped her acquire a couple of properties. Yeah, she's one of the nicest people I think I've ever worked for actually.
She's so much fun.
She is. Yeah, super passionate, so driven, great professional on and off the pitch. I'm eager to know, do any of the other ladies at, maybe Birmingham or the national team, do they have an appetite for like property like you and Lisa do?
I don't really know. I think a few of them will definitely, or have done recently, just bought houses or sold their houses and got another one. But in terms of like buying to rent out, I think there is a few people that are interested in it. I just think sometimes it's knowing what to do and how to do it and having that kind of advice. So obviously people like yourselves are so helpful. I think it's also making the start and having the capital to do it as well. I think that's obviously a massive challenge for people.
Yeah, no, it is.
Especially if they're renting. Like renting's probably one of the hardest things to kind of get out of when you're trying to save to buy. So
definitely, look, cash is key when it comes to property. I mean, you've worked for some of the biggest clubs in the world, Christie, and you mentioned earlier about not knowing what to do with it, really, even if you were sitting on some money. You're earning it through your clubs or endorsements or inheritance, whatever the money comes in from. Have you never experienced any form of education? Because I think you may have you ever had education away from sport in property? Because there's always property courses or investment networking events you can join.
No, I haven't done any of them actually. And yeah, I think it's something that obviously would be good for women in sport and particularly football as well. So just in terms of obviously setting yourself up for after football. Because most people are going to have to actually work when they finish playing or have a career. So,
but I think you mentioned, like you said, if you're going to consider property as a career after football, knowledge whilst you're playing, whilst you're being paid, is key for preparation for later on, isn't it? And
absolutely.
That's where I guess our workshops have been so beneficial for young male athletes who we've been, I guess, teaching in football over the past sort of 4 seasons now. We've been asked to do more with the Premier League again, which is great. The EFL have asked us to do more again next year, which again is amazing. We've just signed a 3-year partnership with the RPA, which means we've got to go and visit all 12 Premier League rugby teams next season. What can we do in women's football? How do we possibly explore helping groups of professional female players like you at Birmingham City? How does that happen? Have you ever experienced some form of workshop? Forget property for a second, but any form of educational workshop like finance or social media or media training, or what benefits come with being a professional footballer like you?
The kind of workshops and stuff has come through maybe the PFA or Visa did a programme which was about kind of like small workshops like you're talking about, social media and things like that. I think they've got a partnership with the league and potentially FIFA or something, and they'd done a number of ones, and then at the end of it we were given a mentor to kind of help push us and help us grow in kind of whatever area that we feel that we want to or need help with. So there's that. I'm actually involved with a new charity that's been set up called the Women's Football Education. And in it, I think it runs kind of similar to what the men's kind of get with theirs. And it's just to kind of educate women in financial education, just kind of any sort of like personal development, learning languages, kind of mental health support and things like that. So it's maybe something that we can chat about, because we want to obviously provide something that maybe it's just there and they can maybe explore an area that they need some help with, whether it's to get a mortgage, to buy a house, to understand how to save money, like basic skills that you don't get taught in school or potentially maybe taught at home, because it's something that isn't really talked about. So yeah, I think that it's something that needs a lot more work in the women's game, because there is now kids getting a lot of money, they're getting paid, and I think it's understanding how to save it and how to make the most of your career and make sure that when you come out, you've maybe got a flat paid off and you've got a couple that you're renting out, and financially the strain of finishing playing is a lot less. So for me, that's something that I'm obviously very passionate about, and that maybe we could have a chat to see if it's something that we could put on and make it available for women to come on and listen to and just have that little bit of advice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I popped down to Birmingham and I did the under-23s the season before last. It's a chap there called Mark, I think was the head of education at the club. And we did a great workshop with the 23s. There's probably about 30 lads that were in there, and staff actually. I mean, the testimonial we got from the club afterwards was incredible. So, I mean, if there is an opportunity, and you as captain being quite influential behind that, if I can come in and compliment everything that you're trying to do, there's certainly no cost from our point of view. I'll come on to a 20-25-minute workshop and talk to the women in your dressing room. I mean, there's a couple of workshops we've got. We've got one about buying a home. We've got another one about setting up a property company and looking to loan your personal money to that business and acquiring assets through that. And that's the most tax efficient way. But as you said, even if you've sacrificed so much and committed your life to football since the age of 16, how do you stumble across this sort of knowledge unless you're told?
Yeah, it's word of mouth. That's the biggest thing. It's literally, it could be maybe an older player in the changing rooms, like, oh, I've got a flat. It could be just a passing conversation. And I think it's actually something that potentially could be talked about more, because it's a great way to invest your money in long term as well. And it's a lot safer than potentially maybe investing in other things. So it's just obviously make sure that you've obviously got a diverse portfolio and with various things. But I think property is obviously one of the kind of solid ones that you know that you're going to eventually make your money back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, have you ever invested in stocks and shares? And no,
not really. No, I kind of like I've seen a lot of all the kind of talk at the moment, well, like cryptocurrencies and things like that, but I don't understand it, and it's not really something that I know very much about. And I think to invest money in something that I don't know anything about, it's obviously a massive risk unless I had someone that knew or that I trusted to kind of do that. So I think I think it's safer for me to invest in something I kind of know a wee bit, and my family know a bit more about. So
yeah. Well, Christie, I just wanted to say you've been very kind in supporting everything that we do. I know you like a lot of the posts that I put up and the properties that I list and the ones that we sold, and you always ask questions and I always give you a lot of information back, and you're so enthusiastic and we welcome that, because we want to try and share knowledge. We want to encourage other people like you, other players like you, other athletes across different sports to consider property as a form of protecting your future after football or cricket or rugby or whatever it might be. What would you say to any young player who is now experiencing new money about considering buying a property as early as you can in your career?
Yeah, I would definitely do it. See, if you're signing a 2 or 3 year deal somewhere, wouldn't you rather just invest in yourself, buy yourself a flat or a house, and know that if you do move somewhere else, then you can just rent it out? Like it's safe. Do you know what I mean? You would rather have your own home that you're maybe potentially going to do up and paint and decorate and know that it's yours, and not hand it back to somebody else. It's obviously going to get it in a better position. That's probably selfish of me, but yeah, I think like rather than, I don't know, it's probably me, but not wasting money and all things that are just don't really matter. Whereas that's something that you're going to come home and feel safe and obviously make it your own. I think there's something kind of nice about that. So, yeah.
Very good advice. So on that note, let me know when the fixture list comes out.
I will do, and then these are all coming to a game.
Know a date that we can get ourselves there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've got both kids playing Saturday football next season. So if any Sunday games,
you're in.
I'm in.
It's happening.
Right.
I look forward to it.
Christie, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's great to see you again over Zoom, but we need to get together soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot. Take care.
And listen, before I forget, congratulations again on your engagement.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
You've been listening to Talk Sport and Property. Visit the App Store and download the MPH Sports app today, or keep up with us over on Instagram.